Welcome to the lair of the Batty Boffin.
Hi there Batty fans, it's time for a little bit more on indices with the Batty Boffin. Today we're going to be looking at fractional powers, things like these. Now they may look a bit weird and quite frankly they are, yeah. But just a word here that if you are not doing something like GCSE higher level maths, you probably don't need these. So if you're not sure, check with your syllabus and find out if you need fractional powers, because a lot of math syllabuses don't need them. But if you do, like GCSE higher, here we go. What we're going to do is start off with some of the things we know and then follow the patterns and find out what these mean. So first thing to do, pause the video, fill in these first four and see if you can find the relationship between them. So off you go with that now. Right, the first few of these should be quite simple. 2 to the power 1 is 2. 2 squared is 4. 2 to the power 4, that works out to be 16. And hopefully you know your powers of 2. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256 for that one. And the relationship between them? Well, going up here, we're squaring the numbers, and 16 squared is 256. And that makes sense because we're writing down the 2 twice as many times. So this one is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, and this one is 2 times 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 2. So yes, that would be 2 to the power 4 squared. And that actually applies to anything. When you double the power, you square the number. So if doubling the power means squaring, halving the power means square rooting. Yep. So let's carry on. The square root of 16 is 4. The square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 2 is, well, 1.414 and a bit. It's a yucky number, irrational. So we're just going to write it as root 2. Okay? If in doubt, writing things in their square root format, the surd form you might have heard of, is actually much more accurate than giving it its decimal approximation. If you wrote 1.414, that would just be an approximation. Root 2 is accurate, so they're preferable. But what happens here? We want the square root of the square root of 2. That's a bit cumbersome. Fortunately, there's an easier way of writing it. The fourth root of 2. The fourth root of 2 means the number that, when you multiply it by itself 4 times, the answer is 2. Okay? So, if we look along here, every time we halve the power, it's equivalent to square rooting. And you will see that the square root, I could put a little 2 there if I wanted. The square root is to the power half. The fourth root is to the power quarter. And in fact, that will apply to any of these fractional powers. In general, n to the power of 1 over a fractional power, is the 8th root of n. So the 2 on the bottom means a square root, a 4 on the bottom means a fourth root, a 3 on the bottom would be a cube root. So just as a quick example there, 8 to the power 1/3 means the cube root of 8, which is 2. Yeah, so that's how they work. Fractional powers are roots. And to help you remember these two slightly tricky ones, which are here and here, negative powers are fractions, fractional powers are roots. A nice little kind of reps off the tongue quite nicely. Negative powers are fractions, fractional powers are roots. So just say that to yourself several times until it really sticks in your head. Negative powers are fractions and fractional powers are roots. Negative powers, fractions, fractional powers are roots. Okay, so those are the two slightly tricky ones. Negative powers are fractions and fractional powers are roots. I'm going to wipe this down and I'm going to keep saying that lots of times until you're really bored of it, and then there'll be some for you to go again, featuring the negative powers, which are fractions, and the fractional powers, which are roots. Right, here's some fairly terrifying ones for you to have a look at. This one's got a root of a something with a power in it. This one's got a top-heavy fraction as its power. Weird. And this one's got two numbers that aren't even the same base. That's bizarre. What I'm going to do, I think, given that you are a higher level student if you're watching this here, is I'm going to let you have a go at that, okay? If you're completely stuck, then I will come back and I'll give you some hints, and then I'll go through them all together, okay? But first of all, just see if you can make anything of those to start off with on your own, okay? Have a go. Right, in case those totally flummoxed you, here's a few pointers. This one, we've got a root, so we can turn that into a fractional power, okay? So it's going to be 3 to the power 6 to the power of something that's a fraction, and then you can use this one with it, okay? So turn that root into a fraction and make it look like this, then turn it into this. For this one, you've got 3 times a half. You can regard 3 halves as 3 times a half. So make it look like that. 3 times a half, then apply that. For here, start off by simplifying that, and you should find it comes to the same base as that one, and then you can work with it. Okay, I'll pop back in just a minute with the answers. Right, let's go through those. First one here, we can regard that as 3 to the power 6, and then a square root is to the power half. Okay, 3 to the power 6 to the power half. So that means it's looking like that one. So that is the same thing as 3 to the power of 6 times a half, or 3 to the power 3. Right, for 25 to the power 3 over 2, that one we've got 25 to the power of, now 3 over 2 I can write as a half times 3. Yes, 3 over 2, or 3 times a half. But I'm going to write it as a half times 3, because then I can split it up like that. So that's equal to 25 to the power a half, whole thing, to the power 3. The reason for writing it that is because 25 to the power half simplifies nicely. To the power half, fractional powers are roots. That is equal to the square root of 25 cubed. The square root of 25, of course, is 5. And 5 cubed is 125. You can leave it in either format. Okay? And for the last one, I think green here, just so that my numbers don't get combined. 8 to the power a third. Well, that is equal to the cube root of 8, because fractional powers are roots, times by 2 to the power 4. Cube root of 8 is 2, so that is equal to 2, which I'm going to write as 2 to the 1, times by 2 to the 4, and that, using the 1 up here, is equal to 2 to the power 5. There. Some fairly hairy bits and bobs there. Hope you saw how we do them. There's going to be some more videos where we practice some of these in later on ones, but that's all for the moment. These are all your laws of indices. Some of them a bit simpler, some of them a bit hairier. Remember, negative powers are fractions, fractional powers are roots. So make sure you've got these written down and make sure you know how to use them. And I'll see you next time, Batty fans.